Hey, what's up? Blue Potato here with another video of Wild Rift. This video in particular is going to be about Tryndamere versus Gragas in the Baron lane. Now generally, Gragas is known as a very hard counter for Tryndamere. Thankfully this Gragas was late to lane, which gave me a level advantage. However, because he's my counter, I don't want to engage on him. So how do I think about Baron lane? The way I think about Baron lane is that it's a battle of resources. How fast can I level up and how much gold can I get compared to Gragas? And although you might say obviously that's the name of the game, the way you approach this situation differentiates you and someone at a different elo. So how do I treat this resource battle? Obviously, since it's Gragas, I'm not going to try to engage him unless I can 100% guarantee he's going to die. So I'm going to be looking for short trades and capitalizing on his mistakes. I also don't want a long lane phase with Gragas. So what I'm going to do is every time I have Demolish is force push it into turret, ignore him, and take that turret hit. Eventually this turret will fall. I'll also gain gold from it because every plate I take gives me 150 gold, and once I leave I use my Q or my first ability and heal back up. The reason I don't want a long laning phase against Gragas is because eventually he will outduel me. And even if I stay in lane for a long enough time, if I kill him, the lane is still not in my favor. Let's say I go 2-0 against Gragas, he will eventually still outscale me. That's the whole premise of a counter pick. Another example of this is Vayne. So no matter how bad she does at the start of the game, her passive just lets her be a powerhouse at the end of the game. So even though you shut her down, even though she's 0-5 at the start of the game, she can and will come back if the game drags on long enough. The laning phase is a microcosm of the large game scale. Gragas is my counter, and naturally I'm weak against him. So one wrong move on me, whether I have a big lead or not, he will and can catch up to me very easily. So you see, I'm not even looking for all-ins or fights against Gragas because I'm going to lose those. I'm still looking for my gold, and you can see that my Demolish is off cooldown because the icon isn't at the bottom, as you can see in the arrow right there. And what I'm doing, I'm force pushing this, and I'm going to ignore Gragas, and I'm going to go for that turret and try to get another Demolish stack. And I successfully do, and I also take a plate from the turret, which got me 150 gold. So the smart thing to do here is just recall. I am not a very smart person, so I decided not to recall anyway. And so I slowed this clip down specifically so I can talk to you about what's going in my head. So I see Rammus, who's ganked middle lane, and took both Scuttle Crabs, is at blue. This means that Shyvana should be done clearing her blue side, which means that she's close to Baron's side. I'm assuming she's either going to recall, or she's going to gank me. I think to myself, she's going to gank me. Why do I know this? Because Gragas got extremely aggressive for really no reason. You saw he has no mana. Yet he still drank his casket to do that enhanced attack, and he also body slammed into the minions. It was not necessary because I was already pushing the wave into him. Until this is what you call telegraphing a gank. He became aggressive, which is safe to assume that Shyvana is there to back him up. We can also assume that Shyvana has her ultimate, which means that she can jump from anywhere into lane. So the smart thing to do, again, is just to recall. You have this sixth sense, assuming that someone's going to gank you, why don't you just recall? And this is where sometimes people make stupid mistakes. Now thankfully, I had already assumed that I was going to get ganked, so I was ready to react to this. So Gragas uses his ultimate to push me against the wall, in which case Shyvana would have ulted onto me. Thankfully though, I eat away just in time and I flash out. And so even though I survived this gank, what did I waste? I wasted my flash, my ignite, and my ultimate. In this situation, Shyvana's gank was successful because I wasted my ultimate and my 2 summoner skills. At this point, the best thing to do, again, is just to recall. I farm these minions, and I should just back. At this point, the wave would come back at a neutral point when I'm already back with my items, and I'm recalling, but what do? I decide to cancel it like a silly goose and keep pushing this wave. You hear that? That's just the collective Wild Rift community shaking their head at me for staying in this wave for so long. So after I push this wave in and still cause a neutral wave, so I just bought myself an Executioner's Calling. This is why itemization is just so important. Gragas' passive allows him to have healing. Executioner's Calling has Grievous Wounds, which prevents him from healing so much. And here's something else that you should get comfortable with doing, is using the minimap to find out where the enemies are. So you can see that I found Shyvana and Akali are both in Dragon Lane. What does that mean? That Gragas is pretty much defenseless. So instead of me pushing this wave out aggressively, I'm going to let the minions accumulate towards my side. That way, when Gragas does make a mistake, which I'm anticipating him to do, I can engage and chase him down the length of the lane. If I had pushed this aggressively, what would have happened is that he'd be at his turret, which can let him turret hug. And so I'm positioning myself incorrectly on purpose. I know I can heal all of his damage, so I'm going to make him burn all of his mana, so when I do engage on him, he has no mana to survive. That was my thought process. It didn't work out that way because thankfully Gragas made a massive mistake, and here's a slowdown. So Gragas uses his barrel, and I'm in the way of him. I know I'm going to engage and all in on him. He messes up his ultimate, and I'm in the way, so when he body slams, he crashes into me. His body slam stops the second it crashes into a champion, so that way he can't get that far. I ignite on him, get 2 auto attacks, and he's as good as dead. I still have my ultimate, and I am pretty healthy, so I'm going to see if I can have a Rammus with either Rift Herald or Dragon. I did wish that Gragas would stay here because Rift Herald is up in 2 seconds. Me and him can take it really fast. However, he left, so I solo Rift Herald, which is fantastic for this video. Apparently a lot of people didn't know that Rift Herald has a weak spot behind her. Every once in a while, she opens up her wings and exposes a purple glowy eye. If you manage to hit that purple glowy eye, you do 1200 damage, true damage, or 15% of her maximum health. So every time you're fighting her, always position yourself behind her as much as you can to proc those extra damages. And you'll see them, the little white numbers that say 1200 right there. So that's the easiest and fastest way of killing Rift Herald. So sometimes junglers miss that opportunity, or sometimes people just in general didn't know that Rift Herald is this easy to solo. Like, you just gotta move around her, she'll miss her ults, her attacks, and that 1200 damage goes a long way. Like, that was the fastest kill ever. I managed to get Rift Herald. I recalled that I'm on my way to Dragon, and you'll see that I dragged the minimap, and this is just so I can see what the status of this fight is. You see Akali is low and Shyvana is low, which means I can target those people and kill them pretty easily. However, I don't realize that Pyke and Vayne are both really healthy, so I walk in and I walk back out. And I slow this down because look at how bad this play was. I flash in, and I'm like half health. And what do? I press my ultimate for really no reason. Like, that's just a burn of an ultimate because I still have a lot of health. So obviously we got the dragon, and that was a really lucky chance. But I'm going to be dead here, so no matter what, I'm going to die. And if I had used my ultimate maybe at a better time, I probably could have lived here. Like, I'm surviving this long. Like, right now I could use my ultimate. That'd give me an extra 5 seconds of damage. But instead I use it when I was alive and healthy. And I'm happy to show you guys these mistakes because it just goes to show that no matter who you are bound to make a mistake. You're not perfect. It just happens, you know? Okay, so here's the right way of using Rift Herald. The Rift Herald, if you didn't know, does about 1900 damage to a turret. So if a turret is at 1900 health already, there's no reason for you to continue auto attack. As you see here, I drop it down to 1900 and I stop. So many people drop Rift Herald and just continue autoing that turret. I'll finish my thought process, but look at this Gragas. It feels pretty fast and easy. Like, at this point, I've scaled, and he's fallen behind now. And generally, that doesn't happen. This is a really lucky match where the Gragas seems to kind of be a little confused as to what he's supposed to be doing. While the chaos, what happens right now ensues, I'm going to keep going about the Rift Herald. A lot of times, people drop Rift Herald, and there's like 3 or 4 allies just auto-attacking the turret. And the turret drops about 300 or 400 health like that one did now. And the Rift Herald charges. It's going to waste 15% of its health whether it hits 1900 or 100. So the smart thing to do is either take that first turret with just auto attacks, or take it with the Rift Herald charging. Like, there's no reason for you to do both. And even in Diamond Elo or Master Elos, people drop it and waste a charge for really no reason. If you're going to take the turret with auto attacks, drop it somewhere else in another lane and go take the initial turret with auto attacks. That way you take 2 turrets instead of 1. And I don't know if you're watching this fight. I'm here for so long for really no reason. I could have recalled so much earlier than that and been fine, but I'm just chasing people around. Now Akali's gonna get a double kill here, which kind of sucks bananas. So what do? I'm gonna prioritize finishing a Wit's End, which gives me magic resist. Why? Because both Gragas and Akali are really 2 strong opponents against Tryndamere. And what kind of damage do they do? Magic damage. And Wit's End gives me magic resist. And for the first time in this game, I recall the smart moment. I've not maxed out, but I'm finally able to purchase Wit's End, and so I'm recalling instantly to buy it. Why? Because Gragas and Akali are going to pop off. Haha, I'm just kidding. I don't recall because I'm a silly goose. Instead, I'm going to farm these minions for no reason, and I realize, hey, I should probably recall and buy this item. And so, I do. Once I finish out my Wit's End, I'm going to look towards finishing out my boots, which are going to be Merc Treads, which give me additional magic resist because, again, magic damage plus magic resist equals less magic damage. In solo queue, pings are important. Here I ping to group, and I also ping to engage Rift Herald, so it lets people know in 22 seconds Rift Herald will spawn. Hopefully Rammus gets the hint and comes and joins me. However, Shyvana and Gragas are both at Baron Lane, because they're trying to prioritize a way to challenge Rift Herald. That's smart on their end. Unfortunately, Gragas managed to steal Rift Herald with his ultimate. He is an absolute beast. I checked to see if Rammus had smite, and I accidentally pinged him, but he did have a smite ready to go. I forgot that I can accidentally ping people when I tap on their ability. I was just curious to see if he had it available. Although it sounds like I'm BMing, it was a total accident. I recall to finish out my boots, and I'm on way to Dragon because it's 40 seconds for it to spawn. I want to set prioritization, just like they set prioritization for Rift Herald. Shyvana just ulted, and here is where prioritization is so important when it comes to team fights. I deal with Akali who does a lot of damage, and she dies. I ignore everyone else, and I want to take out Shyvana. Why? Because she has smite. So in this situation, I die, but I make sure Shyvana dies with me. So if there is a case of a team fight for Dragon, we have smite advantage. And thankfully Xayah and Rammus managed to catch out his Vayne and killed her. That means we have a free Dragon because there's only one enemy alive and 2 of our allies alive. And we have smite. Thankfully we secured Dragon. And again, use your minimap for situations like this, where you need to see if the team fight is worth going into. This one is because the enemy is overextended. And so I'm going to join the fight, and I'm going to use my glories to catch up to them. I'm going to attack Akali, sidestep Pyke's little hook, and go for Pyke so he doesn't execute anybody who's low health. So we managed to kill 2 of them. Karma dismissed her ult, but that's okay. We're going to take this turret. Gragas is misplaced here, so we're also going to jump him, and he's going to die really fast. He built AP as opposed to tank, so that means he doesn't have the sustainability that he normally should expect. And I ping retreat here so they know I'm not with him anymore. I'm going to start looking for ways to start to disrupt Shyvana from taking her stack. Ahri asked for the buff with her ping, so I say, you know what, take it, go ahead, I don't really care, I don't need it. And I don't start Gromp until I make sure Ahri kills this buff. That's to make sure that she doesn't get jumped on and assassinated by Shyvana, who was really close to her. And once I take care of Gromp, I go towards to make sure that this wave isn't pushing towards my turret. Once I buy Static Shiv, I move towards middle lane because there seems to be a team fight there. However, I change courses once I see that Shyvana is at Baron Lane all by herself. I know I can 1v1 Shyvana, so that'll be an easy kill for me to have, that's 1, and 2, I can push out this wave towards that really low second tier turret. Before I engage, I attack these Krugs to get my Fury up, which gets my critical chance up. Now that she's at the turret, I'll E into her and I'll flash in her way, so when she ults, she pushes me into her. That same way that Gragas kind of body slammed into me, that's the same concept I pushed here. Now this lane is free to push. Gragas is top lane, Pyke is dead, Shyvana is dead, Akali and Vayne are in center lane. That means that all of the enemies are accounted for. This is why I'm pushing so freely. If you don't know where the enemies are, doing this is risky. So now that I'm going towards inhibitor turret, my team is backing off. I see Akali is overextended, so instead of going for this risky turret with Pyke, I decide to collapse on Akali. However, I get jumped by Vayne, Pyke, and Akali. I kill Akali, and I manage to juke Pyke. And again, the smart thing to do here with 2200 gold is just to recall and get more items. However, I don't think clearly in the moment of the game. So what am I going to do is I'm going to counter jungle when it's really not necessary for me to do so, and wait for Rammus to push that lane towards the next turret. This is just a waste of time. I could buy items and be more effective like that. Thankfully, my team was very well coordinated, at least compared to the enemy team, and kind of covered for my mistakes. However, not all games are going to be this clean. At this point, I have like 2900 gold, and I'm recalling at a stupid place, so all these little mistakes my team helped cover up. And maybe it's just a luck of the draw, but all the times you do silly mistakes like this, the enemy team instead will capitalize on it. You'll start falling behind. At this point of the game, at 15 minutes, the death timers are about 50 seconds. That's a whole minute for the enemy team to recoup and take objectives, whether that be turrets, Baron Nashor, or a dragon. And let me just go back to the beginning of this game. After the first Rift Herald, I stopped prioritizing Baron Lane. Why? That logic was given to you earlier. I don't want to have a laning phase with Gragas because he then will beat me. Instead, I'm going to use Tryndamere's strength, which is catching out enemies and disrupting the whole enemy team by just bonking at somebody super duper hard. You also need to realize that you have to end games as soon as you can in rank. So I was gonna push Baron lane, but I see all of my team is still alive and they're pushing middle. I rejoin them and end this game as soon as possible. In other games, right, I take my sweet time to end the game because I like to have fun. But when it's ranked, it's a little more serious. You gotta end it when you can. Because think about it, the longer the game is, the higher the chances to make a mistake. At a certain point of the game, death timers are longer than a minute. In that minute, the enemy team can take Baron, Dragon, Elder Dragon, push your turrets, take your Nexus. It's going to be crazy. So many people talk about coin flipping games, but I'd rather call it testing your luck. Don't test your luck and end the game when you can. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I look forward to talking to you guys in the comments. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Have a great one, you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for more Wild Rift content. Take it easy, summoners, and I hope your elo climb is way better than it was last season.